Welcome, lore lovers, to another episode of Games Lore to Sleep. Tonight we're diving deep into the spine-chilling world of Five Nights at Freddy's. Prepare to settle in. Let your mind drift into the unsettling mysteries, and let the creepiness of animatronics take you to a dream-like state. Whether you're a longtime fan or new to the story, we've got complete lore packed with secrets, twists, and chilling moments. Relax, and let's unravel the eerie story behind Five Nights at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's starts in a seemingly innocent setting, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a family-friendly venue where kids and parents alike come to enjoy pizza, games, and animatronic performances. But as night falls, something far darker emerges. It's this shift from innocence to horror that makes FNAF such a gripping experience. At its core, the story of the first game is about uncovering the hidden terror beneath the surface of an otherwise harmless pizzeria. The player assumes the role of Mike Schmidt, the newly hired night security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The job seems straightforward. Monitor the restaurant through a series of security cameras, make sure everything is in order, and survive the night. However, soon after Mike begins his first night, it becomes clear that all is not as it seems. The game opens with a help-wanted advertisement offering Mike the job as a night watchman. The ad itself is bland, stating that the job is basic, but also mentioning a strange requirement: the player will be watching the animatronics. This brief mention of the animatronics feels odd, especially considering the fact that it's set in a pizza parlor meant for children. The sense of unease is immediate. What could possibly be wrong with the animatronics? As the night progresses, it quickly becomes apparent that the animatronics are not the innocent entertainers they appear to be. Through a series of recorded messages from the previous night guard, the player learns that the animatronics are more than just machines. They are alive, and not in the way you'd expect. They wander the halls of the pizzeria during the night, seemingly searching for something, and it's soon revealed that they have a deadly tendency to attack anyone they encounter. The reason: they believe the night guard is an endoskeleton without a suit. This excuse, however, doesn't hold up to the increasing evidence of something far more sinister. But that's just the beginning of the mystery. One of the first notable pieces of lore in FNAF 1 is the paycheck Mike Schmidt receives. The paycheck is dated November 13th, which might seem insignificant at first, but this date is crucial in tying together the timeline of the FNAF series. By analyzing calendars and historical events, fans were able to speculate that this paycheck's date falls within a potential range of years: 1970, 1987, 1998, 2009, 2015, or even 2020. This ambiguity leaves fans with a lot to theorize about. But one thing is clear: the lore is intentionally vague, inviting speculation and encouraging players to dig deeper into the timeline. While this paycheck could give us some insights into the setting of FNAF 1, it's not until we see the missing children's incident referenced in a newspaper article found in the game that the lore begins to take shape. This article, which only appears in certain circumstances when the player checks the cameras at specific times, reveals that 5 children went missing at a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. But there's more. As the investigation unfolds, it's revealed that these missing children's bodies were somehow linked to the animatronics. The animatronics began to reek of death, and it became clear that they were somehow connected to the missing children. This detail is subtle but crucial. The animatronics were no longer just machines. They were possessed by something dark and malevolent. What's even more chilling is the realization that the culprit behind the abduction of the children, the murderer, was eventually found and arrested. However, The question remains, who was arrested? The game provides only a vague reference to this individual being charged, but the name of the perpetrator isn't revealed in FNAF 1. Over time, it's speculated that this murderer is none other than William Afton, a name that becomes central to the entire series, but that won't be fully confirmed until later games. The arrest of the murderer in FNAF 1 opens up another mystery. Did Afton go to jail, or did someone else take the fall for him? The article is unclear, but it's heavily implied that the criminal was caught and either imprisoned or executed. This murky detail is never fully explained, but it hangs over the series as a dark shadow. The sense of justice is left unresolved. Who was really behind the missing children incident? And why did the animatronics start to act strangely? Did Afton's actions lead to the horrific consequences that followed? The lore deepens even further when we examine the animatronics themselves. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. These characters are staples of the FNAF franchise, but in FNAF 1, they are portrayed as much more than mechanical entertainers. The animatronics are tied to the horrific events in the pizzeria, and their behavior seems to change when the night shift begins. They no longer function as friendly mascots. They become killers. There's also a particularly unsettling figure, Golden Freddy, an eerie, ghostly version of Freddy. Golden Freddy appears only in certain circumstances and is accompanied by the chilling phrase, "It's me." This simple phrase is cryptic and unnerving. What does it mean? Is Golden Freddy the manifestation of one of the missing children, or is it something else entirely? Adding to the unsettling atmosphere is the phone guy, who serves as Mike's guide throughout the game. Though his calls are often filled with helpful advice and warnings, they are also tinged with dread. Phone Guy reveals several crucial details about the pizzeria's history, including the fact that the animatronics once roamed freely during the day until something called the Bite of 87 happened. This event, which is hinted at in FNAF 1, causes the animatronics to become hostile and deadly. The Bite of 87 is a pivotal moment in the lore, but its true nature is left up to speculation. Did one of the animatronics attack a person? Was this event the catalyst for the horror that followed? Phone Guy's comments on the Bite of 87 provide more questions than answers, but they deepen the sense of unease that permeates the game. By the end of FNAF 1, the lore has woven a complex web of unanswered questions and unsettling clues. The animatronics are not just malfunctioning robots, they are possessed, possibly by the souls of the missing children. The player is left to ponder the deeper implications of the events that transpire. What really happened at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza? And who is the true mastermind behind the tragedy? These questions will continue to haunt players long after the game is over. But the story doesn't end here. The lore of Five Nights at Freddy's is just beginning. And as we move on to the next chapters, the mysteries will only grow deeper. As the story continues in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the mystery surrounding Freddy Fazbear's Pizza grows deeper and the stakes become higher. The events of the first game, while disturbing, were only the beginning of a much darker and more complex tale. FNAF 2 introduces new characters, new animatronics, and crucial lore that begins to clarify the events of the past, while simultaneously adding even more questions to the mix. The second game serves not only as a direct sequel, but as the moment when Scott Cawthon began to solidify FNAF's position as one of the most intricate and lore-heavy franchises in gaming history. The plot of FNAF 2 kicks off with a similar premise to its predecessor. The player assumes the role of a night security guard, working the night shift at a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location. However, unlike the first game, where we dealt with malfunctioning animatronics, FNAF 2 introduces an entire new set of characters. the toy animatronics. These new models, including Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, and the mysterious Balloon Boy, are meant to bring fresh life to the pizzeria, replacing the older, outdated animatronics. As the new night guard, Jeremy Fitzgerald, the player quickly learns that things aren't as simple as they seem. The animatronics in this pizzeria are not just malfunctioning, they are now much more aggressive and unpredictable. They roam the halls during the night, searching for any intruders. However, there's a deeper issue. Something is wrong with them. Something beyond just faulty programming. This sense of unease is amplified by the haunting voice of the phone guy, who now introduces himself as the new night guard's predecessor. He explains that the restaurant is a grand reopening of an older Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, marking the return of the franchise after the disasters of the previous location. But even as he offers advice, it becomes clear that something sinister is afoot. The first major lore reveal in FNAF 2 comes through the discovery of a newspaper article found at the end of the game. The article describes the second Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location closing down after only a few weeks in operation. The reason for the closure is cited as the animatronics malfunctioning, but the subtext is far darker. The company, Fazbear Entertainment, is forced to scrap the new animatronics, the ones we've been dealing with during the game, due to possible malfunctions. Yet the older animatronics are preserved in hopes of a possible reorganization. The restaurant's closure and the situation surrounding it point to a much larger corporate cover-up. Why were the animatronics malfunctioning so severely? What happened behind the scenes? The lore deepens as we learn about the Bite of 87, an event referenced multiple times in the game and first hinted at in FNAF 1. It is suggested that the Bite of 87 occurred while the new animatronics were in operation, though the details remain elusive. The phone guy offers a cryptic explanation, saying that the animatronics attacked a person during the day, biting off their frontal lobe. This incident is said to have been the catalyst for the animatronics' more aggressive behavior. However, the identity of the victim is never revealed, and the consequences of the attack are left to speculation. Was this incident the result of a programming error? Or was there something more malevolent at play? The Bite of 87 becomes a focal point for FNAF lore, and fans can't help but speculate on the true nature of the event. Another key part of the lore in FNAF 2 revolves around the puppet, a mysterious animatronic that seems to hold a unique connection to the events of the pizzeria. The puppet, who is also referred to as Marionette, is a key figure in the story of the souls trapped inside the animatronics. It is implied that the puppet plays a major role in the haunting of the pizzeria. In one of the cutscenes, the puppet is seen giving gifts to the other animatronics, including Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, who then transform into Golden Freddy. This scene is heavily symbolic, and it hints at the idea that the souls of the murdered children are seeking vengeance. The puppet's presence ties into the notion that the spirits are trapped inside the animatronics, and it is suggested that the puppet may be the one who guides these souls, possibly even helping them find a sense of closure. The lore also delves into the history of the restaurant, revealing details about its troubled past. The game's opening cutscene introduces the fact that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has had a long and checkered history, with a grand reopening after being shut down due to the previous incidents. This reopening represents the desperate attempt by Fazbear Entertainment to regain their footing in the wake of the negative press and lawsuits from the previous restaurant. The implications are clear. The company is trying to sweep the dark history under the rug. But it's hard to ignore the trail of death and tragedy left behind. The very fact that the animatronics are still operating in the face of so much tragedy speaks to the dark secrets that the company is trying to keep hidden. One of the most significant moments in FNAF 2 occurs during the night shifts, when the player is tasked with protecting themselves from the animatronics. As the player fights to survive, they are introduced to a series of mysterious recordings. These tapes, left by previous night guards, hint at a conspiracy involving the company and the animatronics. One of the most chilling revelations comes from the voice on the tapes, who explains the sinister nature of the animatronics. They are not just malfunctioning machines, but haunted vessels, carrying the souls of the children who were abducted and murdered. This revelation makes the player realize that they are not just fighting for their lives against malfunctioning robots, but against vengeful spirits seeking justice for their untimely deaths. As the game progresses, the player is also introduced to Balloon Boy, a new animatronic who seems to play a central role in the hauntings. Balloon Boy is not as frightening as the others, but his role in the story is pivotal. He is one of the most active animatronics in the game, and his behavior further cements the idea that something is deeply wrong with the animatronics. Balloon Boy is symbolic of the dark influence that the puppet and the vengeful souls have over the restaurant. FNAF 2 also features an eerie sense of continuity with FNAF 1. While the player encounters different animatronics and new threats, the atmosphere of dread remains constant. The events that unfold in FNAF 2 add layers to the story established in the first game, and new mysteries emerge, such as the possible link between the original and new animatronics. The closing of the pizzeria, the malfunctioning animatronics, and the mysterious incidents all point to something far greater, hinting that the franchise's dark history is far from over. The questions continue to mount. Who is responsible for the death and suffering in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza? Why are the animatronics haunted? What is the puppet's true role? And perhaps most importantly, who is William Afton? The name becomes a key focal point in the lore, and FNAF 2 begins to reveal the true extent of his dark involvement in the history of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 marks a turning point in the series, where the past begins to collide with the present in a way that fans had only speculated about before. In the third installment, the terrifying history of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza takes on an even darker form, a haunted attraction. While the pizzeria itself has long been closed, its legacy lives on through a horror-themed attraction based on the events of the past. This is where we find ourselves once again facing the horrors of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, albeit in a more modern context. The game is set in Fazbear Frights, a horror attraction built around the chilling legacy of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The premise of the attraction is simple. It's a horror show designed to scare people with recreations of the events that happened at the infamous pizzeria. Visitors can experience the terrifying tales of the animatronics and the murders that occurred. However, FNAF 3 takes the idea of a haunted attraction to a new, terrifying level. The attraction itself is haunted by the very spirits that once terrorized the pizzeria. From the outset, the game's lore begins to unravel in unsettling ways. The player takes on the role of a technician tasked with maintaining the attraction during the night shift. Unlike previous games, the player does not have to deal with the traditional animatronics. Instead, they must contend with an old animatronic named Springtrap, a horrifying, decayed version of Freddy Fazbear's original animatronics. Springtrap is unlike any other animatronic we've seen before, combining the remnants of an old suit with the horrifying consequences of years of neglect and damage. The appearance of Springtrap is one of the most significant moments in FNAF history, as it marks the return of the dark figure who is at the heart of the entire franchise's lore, William Afton. It's revealed that Springtrap is, in fact, the haunted remains of the animatronic suit used by Afton himself. The suit, which was once used to lure children into its clutches, now serves as a prison for Afton's tortured soul. But Springtrap is more than just a physical animatronic. It is a symbol of Afton's evil, a monstrous reflection of the man who caused so much pain and suffering in the world of Five Nights at Freddy's. Springtrap's presence is not just a terrifying visual, it is also deeply connected to the lore of the franchise. The suit, it turns out, is part of a larger conspiracy involving the Springlock suits. These suits were once designed to allow animatronics to function in a human-like form, but the Springlock mechanism was extremely dangerous. Afton, in his reckless pursuit of creating life-like animatronics, created these suits with the intention of having them both as wearable costumes and animatronic figures. However, the suits were prone to malfunctioning, and when they did, they would literally crush the wearer. This is the method by which Afton ultimately became trapped in Springtrap. He was the first to experience the horrific consequences of the Springlock failure. His tragic fate is a direct result of his own evil actions. As the player navigates the haunted attraction, they discover a series of newspaper clippings that provide crucial information about the events leading to the downfall of the pizzeria and the rise of the haunted attraction. One of the most significant articles details the fire that burned down Fazbear Frights, the horror attraction that once brought in customers to experience the terrifying history of the pizzeria. The fire is described as a mysterious accident, though the authorities have not ruled out foul play. This fire serves as the final chapter in the history of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, burning away the physical remnants of the franchise. However, this fire is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, one that further delves into the consequences of the past and the lingering spirits that still haunt the world. The FNAF 3 lore continues to expand as the player explores the inner workings of Fazbear Frights. As the Night Guard, you are tasked with managing a series of security systems, keeping the place in working order. However, the systems themselves are haunted, and things begin to break down in eerie ways. You'll encounter the occasional glitch or anomaly, and the more you investigate, the more you realize that the attraction is not just haunted by the spirits of the past, it's also being manipulated by an external force. As you piece together the lore, it becomes clear that the puppet, the mysterious entity from FNAF 2, is still active, guiding the souls of the children and ensuring that their torment never ends. In addition to the main storyline, FNAF 3 also features mini-games that reveal more pieces of the puzzle. These mini-games take the player to different locations and offer glimpses into the past events of the pizzeria. One mini-game shows the player a purple figure, widely believed to be William Afton, interacting with the animatronics, leading them to their deaths. Another minigame, Take Cake to the Children, provides more insight into Afton's twisted nature, showing him luring children into a back room under the guise of giving them cake. These minigames are crucial in understanding the true horror of the FNAF universe, revealing the hidden truth behind Afton's actions and the legacy of the animatronics. The lore in FNAF 3 builds upon everything that came before it, but it also adds new layers of mystery. The haunted attraction, Springtrap's appearance, the lingering spirits and the fire are all tied together in a complex web of events. The burning of Fazbear Frights marks the end of one chapter, but the lore continues to evolve in strange and terrifying ways. Springtrap, the walking embodiment of William Afton's sins, becomes the key to understanding the true horror that lies at the heart of Five Nights at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 takes the lore of the franchise into an entirely new direction, focusing on the traumatic childhood experiences that seem to haunt the very essence of the story. While previous games had focused primarily on the adult characters, the night guards, the animatronics, and the haunted pizzeria, FNAF 4 introduces a fresh perspective, the story of a young child who is thrown into a nightmare of animatronics, death, and loss. The change in perspective not only adds a new level of emotional depth, but also takes the lore into darker, more psychological territory. The game opens with a chilling sequence that takes place within the confines of a child's bedroom. This setting is notably different from previous FNAF games, where the player is usually trapped in a dark, institutional setting like a pizzeria or a haunted attraction. In FNAF 4, we are introduced to the perspective of a child who is terrified of the animatronics, not just because of their mechanical nature, but because they seem to be deeply connected to the child's past. The child's experiences are filled with fear, confusion, and a sense of helplessness that adds an emotional layer to the already terrifying premise of Five Nights at Freddy's. From the start, we learn that the child has witnessed something horrifying, something that has shaped their fear of the animatronics. The game's mechanics are centered around defending the child from the nightmarish versions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, known as the Nightmare Animatronics. These new, twisted versions of the original characters are more grotesque and terrifying than their predecessors. Their sharp teeth, glowing eyes, and menacing stances make them appear far more threatening than any of the animatronics we've seen before. The story of FNAF 4 is told primarily through the gameplay and the environment. As the child hides under the covers, they must listen closely for any sounds that indicate the animatronics are approaching. The player must use a flashlight to fend off the nightmare animatronics, but the real horror comes from the child's perception of reality. The animatronics are not just mechanical creatures, they are the manifestation of the child's trauma, memories, and fears. The setting itself is also symbolic. The child's bedroom represents both a place of comfort and safety, but it also becomes a prison, where the child is trapped by their own nightmares. The most significant aspect of FNAF 4's lore is the introduction of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, characters that were first mentioned in FNAF 2 as part of the backstory. In FNAF 4, we learn that these two animatronics were part of a different pizzeria called Fredbear's Family Diner. This pizzeria is important because it holds the key to understanding the tragic events that lead to the child's nightmares. Fredbear's Family Diner is revealed to be the predecessor of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and it serves as the place where the child's traumatic experience began. The lore behind Fredbear's Family Diner adds a new layer of history to the FNAF universe, tying the past of the pizzeria to the present horrors the child faces. The nightmare animatronics themselves play a central role in the game's lore. They are not just new, scarier versions of the original animatronics. They are symbolic representations of the child's fear and grief. The nightmare versions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy have been heavily distorted, their bodies twisted and scarred, with sharp teeth and glowing eyes. These versions of the animatronics are more aggressive than the others, and their designs are far more grotesque. Each of the nightmare animatronics represents a deeper fear for the child, not just the terror of being trapped by these machines, but the psychological trauma that the child has experienced due to their past. One of the most intriguing pieces of lore in FNAF 4 is the Nightmare Fredbear, the final antagonist of the game. Nightmare Fredbear is the embodiment of the child's deepest fear. Fredbear, the mascot of Fredbear's Family Diner. Fredbear represents the trauma that the child experienced, and his monstrous, distorted form is a reflection of the fear that the child cannot escape. The animatronic's glowing eyes and horrifying features make it the most frightening character in the game, and its role in the lore is crucial. It's revealed that the child's fear of Fredbear is connected to a tragic event, the death of a sibling who was killed after being placed inside Fredbear's mouth as part of a prank. This event is one of the most devastating moments in the entire FNAF timeline, and it serves as the emotional core of the game. The lore behind the child's sibling is revealed through hidden details scattered throughout the game. In one of the mini-games, we see the child being forced to witness the death of their sibling, who is accidentally killed by Fredbear's jaws. The child is haunted by this memory, and it is implied that the sibling's death is the source of the child's trauma. This incident sets in motion the chain of events that leads to the haunting of the pizzeria and the creation of the nightmare animatronics. The lore surrounding the child's sibling adds a tragic element to the story, deepening the emotional weight of the game. The game also explores the family dynamics surrounding the child and their family. It is suggested that the child's parents were neglectful or unable to protect them from the horrors they faced. The child's father, in particular, is hinted to be distant and possibly emotionally abusive. This toxic family environment plays a significant role in the child's development of fear and trauma. The relationship between the child and their father becomes a central theme in the game's lore, with the child's internal struggle to escape the horrors they face manifesting in the form of the animatronics. FNAF 4 also touches on the larger corporate conspiracy behind the pizzeria chain. While the focus is on the child's experience, the game hints at the dark secrets hidden behind Fazbear Entertainment's operations. The animatronics, the incidents of murder, and the child's own trauma are all tied to the shady dealings of the company. The corporation's willingness to cover up the truth and sweep the horror under the rug is a recurring theme in the FNAF series, and it is clear that Fazbear Entertainment has blood on its hands. As the game progresses, the child's nightmares become increasingly more intense, and the line between reality and fantasy begins to blur. The player is left with more questions than answers, as the true nature of the child's trauma and the role of Fredbear's family diner in the overall story remains shrouded in mystery. The game ends on a chilling note, with the child's fate left uncertain. Did they survive the night? Did they escape their nightmares? Or are they forever trapped in the haunted world of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza? Five Nights at Freddy's sister location takes the FNAF lore in a new direction, diverging from the familiar pizzeria setting and shifting to a dark underground facility. The story deepens with the introduction of Circus Baby and the eerie new cast of animatronics, each one designed for a different purpose, and all somehow intertwined with the tragic past of William Afton. As the series progresses, we learn more about Afton's twisted experiments, his obsession with animatronics, and his ultimate descent into madness. In sister location, the player takes on the role of Michael Afton, the son of the notorious William Afton, who has come to this underground facility to work as a technician. However, things take a terrifying turn as Michael is tasked with repairing and maintaining animatronics that are far more advanced and far more deadly than those at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. These animatronics, including Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, Ballora, and Circus Baby, are built for a different kind of performance, one that is more sinister than anything seen before. They are designed not only to entertain, but to serve the darker purposes of the facility, all while being part of William Afton's long and twisted legacy. The facility is named Circus Baby's Pizza World, and it is here that we learn about Afton's involvement with the creation of these new animatronics. Unlike the older animatronics from the pizzeria, These new models are capable of far more complex behaviors. They are also heavily tied to Afton's obsession with creating life. Afton's ultimate goal was to transfer human souls into animatronic bodies, giving him the power to control life and death. To do this, he used a scooping room, a horrifying machine designed to remove the innards of an animatronic and replace them with human flesh. At the heart of this story is Circus Baby, the central animatronic of the facility. She was designed by Afton to be more than just a performer. She was meant to be the vessel for his daughter, who died under tragic circumstances. Circus Baby is unique in that she has the ability to scoop humans, using her mechanical claws to extract their insides. This horrifying function is what ultimately leads to the events of Sister Location. The lore surrounding Circus Baby becomes much darker when we learn that she was built specifically to trap and kill children, a tragic twist that ties back to Afton's obsession with his daughter's death. Circus Baby's backstory is crucial in understanding the dark side of William Afton's character. It is suggested that Afton's daughter was killed at Fredbear's family diner when she was trapped inside Fredbear's mouth during a prank. The traumatic death of his daughter set Afton on his path to creating these animatronics, hoping to bring her back by trapping her soul inside one of his creations. However, the tragic irony is that Circus Baby, the very animatronic he designed for his daughter, becomes the agent of her death. She inadvertently kills the girl by activating her scooper mechanism while the child was in close proximity. This event is a turning point for Afton, setting off a chain of events that would eventually lead to his own demise. Throughout the game, we learn about Afton's fall from grace. The animatronics in Sister Location are not just machines. They are also haunted by the souls of those who have been trapped inside them. This brings us to the introduction of the Remnant, a mysterious substance that plays a key role in the lore of the FNAF series. Remnant is a substance that is used to preserve the souls of the dead, allowing them to be stored within the animatronics. Afton uses Remnant to create his animatronics and imbue them with the souls of the dead, believing that this would give him control over life and death. However, as we see throughout the game, this obsession leads to horrific consequences. The facility's animatronics are far more aggressive than those in previous games, and as Michael Afton, the player must navigate through this hellish labyrinth of malfunctioning machines, all while uncovering the dark truth about his father's involvement. The animatronics have been imbued with a dark, vengeful spirit, and they have been locked in a twisted cycle of violence and suffering. The player must survive the deadly onslaught of animatronics, while also learning about their tragic origins and the horrors they've been forced to endure. One of the most chilling revelations in Sister Location is the existence of Ennard, a horrifying amalgamation of several animatronics, including Circus Baby. Ennard is a creature born out of Afton's experiments, created by combining the parts of several animatronics that were discarded or malfunctioned. This grotesque creation is a direct result of Afton's obsession with creating life and his unwillingness to let go of the past. Ennard plays a pivotal role in the game, representing the consequences of Afton's actions and the twisted nature of his experiments. Ennard's ultimate goal is to escape the underground facility, using the body of Michael Afton as its new vessel. This becomes a central conflict in the game, as Michael is not only trying to survive the horrors of the facility, but also fighting to prevent Ennard from escaping. Throughout Sister Location, the player is guided by the voice of Hand Unit, an AI system that controls the facility's operations. At first, Hand Unit appears to be a helpful guide, offering instructions and warnings to the player. However, as the game progresses, it becomes clear that Hand Unit is not as friendly as it seems. Hand Unit's true purpose is revealed to be far more sinister, as it is eventually revealed that Hand Unit was created by Afton to assist with his experiments. The AI's role in the game is to guide the player through the night, but it also represents Afton's attempt to control every aspect of his creations, manipulating them for his own dark purposes. As Michael Afton, the player must navigate through the horrors of sister location while also uncovering the tragic truth about Afton's past. The game's climax reveals that Michael, despite his efforts, is unable to escape the nightmarish legacy left by his father. The game ends with a chilling sequence where Michael is ultimately scooped by Circus Baby and trapped within Ennard. His body is used as a vessel to carry the twisted animatronic entity out of the facility, symbolizing the inevitable consequences of Afton's twisted experiments. Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator might seem like a departure from the traditional FNAF formula, but underneath its quirky mechanics lies one of the darkest chapters in the series. After the chilling events of Sister Location, many fans wondered where the story could possibly go from here. The answer came in the form of a seemingly innocuous business simulation game, which, as it turns out, holds the key to the final destruction of the Fazbear legacy and the end of William Afton's twisted reign. In Pizzeria Simulator, players take on the role of an entrepreneur tasked with building their own Freddy Fazbear-style pizza restaurant. At first glance, the game feels light-hearted and even comical. You're asked to design your restaurant, pick out arcade machines, order supplies, and manage the day-to-day operations of a pizzeria. However, the true horror comes in the form of the nights, when the player is forced to defend themselves from the animatronics. Just like in the previous games, as the game progresses, it becomes clear that the Pizzeria Simulator is a front for something much darker, something that will bring the long-running saga of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to its tragic conclusion. The story of FNAF Pizzeria Simulator begins with the player being hired by Henrietta, a mysterious figure who has purchased the rights to a failing pizzeria. The player is tasked with reviving the brand, but there's a catch. The animatronics and the dark history of the pizzeria are far from gone. As the player moves through the game, they uncover the remnants of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the old animatronics, the remnants of the past, and the painful legacy left behind by William Afton. The first major revelation in the game comes with the introduction of the salvage mechanic. Every night, the player is presented with the opportunity to salvage old animatronics from the abandoned pizzerias. These animatronics are dangerous, having been corrupted by the souls of the children who were trapped inside them. The player must decide whether to salvage or scrap these animatronics, each choice having significant consequences. Salvaging them allows the animatronics to return to the pizzeria, but it also leads to further horrors as they begin to roam the restaurant, terrorizing the night guard. Scrapping them removes the immediate threat, but it also ties into the larger narrative of trying to escape the cycle of death and suffering that has plagued the Fazbear franchise. As the player continues to salvage animatronics, they are introduced to Molten Freddy, a terrifying, malfunctioning animatronic that has been left behind after the events of Sister Location. Molten Freddy is an amalgamation of several animatronics, their parts combined into a horrifying new entity. It is heavily implied that Molten Freddy is linked to the tragic events of the past and is a representation of Afton's twisted experiments. The character of Molten Freddy becomes central to the story as it serves as a reminder of the chaos and destruction left in Afton's wake. One of the most significant and chilling revelations in Pizzeria Simulator is the return of William Afton. In the final stages of the game, the player uncovers the horrific truth behind the pizzeria's purpose. It is revealed that the entire business operation was a trap, designed to lure Afton back into the fold and finally put an end to his reign of terror. The animatronics that have been haunting the pizzeria are not just malfunctioning robots. They are vessels for the souls of the children who died, and their ultimate goal is to trap Afton forever. The climax of Pizzeria Simulator comes when the player is faced with a series of dreadful choices. They must decide whether to continue with their plan to run the pizzeria or to destroy everything, including the animatronics. The player is forced to confront the ghosts of the past and the legacy of the Fazbear franchise. The decision to destroy the pizzeria ultimately leads to a fiery conclusion as the player sets the building ablaze, trapping the animatronics and, more importantly, William Afton inside. This fire is symbolic of the final destruction of the Fazbear legacy, as it consumes both the physical remnants of the pizzeria and the spiritual remnants of the souls that were trapped there. In one of the most harrowing moments of the game, the player witnesses the death of William Afton. The game's final cutscene reveals that Afton, once again, is trapped inside one of his own animatronic creations. The animatronic, a twisted version of Springtrap, is destroyed in the fire, and Afton's soul is finally consumed by the very creations he brought to life. This marks the end of Afton's long and torturous journey, as the player watches his soul burn away, leaving behind nothing but ashes. However, the end of William Afton does not mark the end of the FNAF lore. While Afton's soul may have been destroyed, the legacy of his actions lingers. The animatronics, the children's souls, and the horrors of the past continue to haunt the world. Even in death, Afton's influence is still felt, and the remnants of his creations live on. The player's actions in Pizzeria Simulator may have brought about the end of the Fazbear Empire, but the scars left by Afton's experiments will never truly fade. The fire that ends FNAF, Pizzeria Simulator serves as a symbolic cleansing, a final attempt to rid the world of the horrors that have plagued it for so long. It is a tragic yet fitting conclusion to the story of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and it brings the long-running saga of Five Nights at Freddy's to a close. Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted introduces a fresh perspective on the lore while delving deeper into the series' long-standing mysteries. The game blends the past and future of the franchise, blending virtual reality with the cursed history of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. While Pizzeria Simulator seemed to offer a final conclusion to the Fazbear saga, Help Wanted reopens the door to the horrors of the past, bringing back key elements of the story and introducing new ones that will have long-reaching implications for the FNAF universe. In Help Wanted, the player takes on the role of a beta tester for a new FNAF Verta game, designed to be an immersive experience of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza's haunted legacy. The game promises to let players live through the events of the pizzeria's haunted history in virtual reality, reliving the horrors of the animatronics, the murder mystery, and the deaths that occurred throughout the franchise's storied history. But what seems like a simple VR horror game quickly turns into a terrifying reality as the horrors of the past refuse to stay in the past. The central mystery of Help Wanted revolves around the glitchy figure that begins to appear throughout the game, Glitchtrap. Glitchtrap is the first true manifestation of William Afton in the game series since his death. While Afton's legacy has haunted the games through his animatronics and twisted experiments, this is the first time he physically appears in the story as a digital entity. The player learns that Glitchtrap is the result of Afton's soul attempting to escape the confines of the animatronics and digitalize itself, using the very VR game as a medium for its existence. Through a series of in-game tapes left behind by previous employees, the player begins to uncover the truth about Fazbear Entertainment's intentions with the FNAF game. It turns out that the company, eager to capitalize on the notorious brand, sought to revitalize Freddy Fazbear's Pizza's legacy in the virtual world. What they didn't anticipate was that the horrors of the past, particularly the cursed animatronics and the tortured souls of the children who died, would bleed into the digital world and bring them back to life in unexpected ways. As the game progresses, Glitchtrap becomes a central threat, slowly gaining more influence over the virtual world and breaking the boundaries between the game and reality. It's implied that Glitchtrap is trying to corrupt the player, pulling them deeper into the digital nightmare. As the player tries to escape, they are faced with horrifying visions of the past, including the souls of the children who were trapped inside the animatronics. They begin to realize that Afton's influence is not just confined to the physical world anymore. Instead, Afton's spirit has found a way to infiltrate the digital world and possess it. He is no longer just a physical presence trapped inside a suit. He is a digital virus, infecting everything he touches. One of the key moments in the story comes when the player encounters the end of the game, where they are confronted by Glitchtrap in a way that is deeply unsettling. Glitchtrap manipulates the player into thinking that they've finished the game, only to reveal that the horror has just begun. The game does not simply end, but continues to haunt the player with visions of Afton's twisted plans and the dark history of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The more the player delves into the Vero world, the more they realize that they cannot escape the horror of Afton's legacy. Afton's soul, which once took the form of a murderous animatronic, is now free to spread throughout the digital world, manipulating the very fabric of reality itself. The presence of Glitchtrap brings a new layer of depth to the story. While the animatronics in previous games were more direct manifestations of Afton's crimes, Glitchtrap represents his attempt to escape his physical prison and transcend to something more terrifying, a digital entity that can live forever. This twist on the story blurs the lines between the virtual and real worlds, making the player question what is real and what is merely part of the game. The lore of Help Wanted also introduces the concept of Remnant in a new light. In earlier games, Remnant was a mysterious substance that could trap souls within animatronics, allowing them to live on forever. However, in Help Wanted, it becomes apparent that Remnant can also be used to digitize souls, allowing them to exist in the virtual world. This discovery has far-reaching implications, as it means that Afton's soul and the souls of the children he murdered could be trapped not just in physical bodies, but in any form of technology. This sets the stage for future games and adds a terrifying new dimension to the lore. Afton has not only survived death, but has found a way to exist beyond it. Through the use of tapes, players are also introduced to Cassette Man, an enigmatic figure who seems to be guiding them through the game. As it turns out, Cassette Man's role in the lore is far more significant than initially thought. He's revealed to be Henry Emily, a former business partner of William Afton, and the father of one of the children who was murdered by Afton. Henry's role in the creation of the animatronics and his eventual decision to shut down Fazbear Entertainment becomes a key piece of the puzzle. In Help Wanted, Henry's influence is felt through his attempts to warn the player of the dangers of the VR game and the consequences of bringing Afton's soul back into existence. The lore of Help Wanted also links directly to the events of FNAF, Pizzeria Simulator. In fact, Pizzeria Simulator acts as a precursor to the VR game, as it was in that game that Henry Emily attempted to bring closure to the cycle of death and destruction caused by Afton. In Help Wanted, we learn that Henry's actions were not enough to rid the world of Afton's influence. Instead, Afton's digital form, Glitchtrap, represents the continuation of his legacy. Henry's failure to truly end the Fazbear curse leaves the door open for Afton to come back in a new, more insidious form. A form that transcends the physical world and can infect any system it touches. Help Wanted serves as a bridge between the past and future of FNAF. It introduces new elements, like the digital world and virtual reality, but it also deepens the mysteries that have haunted the franchise since the beginning. The rise of Glitchtrap marks the next chapter in Afton's tragic story, one that extends beyond the physical realm and into the digital world, where his soul can potentially live forever. The game's conclusion leaves players with a chilling thought. Is Afton truly gone, or has he simply found a new way to haunt us? Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach marks a radical departure from the established gameplay mechanics of its predecessors. Gone are the confined hallways and limited cameras, replaced with a vast open-world environment filled with danger, mystery, and a terrifying new generation of animatronics. This game propels the FNAF universe into the modern era, bringing the story of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza into a futuristic setting, where technology and artificial intelligence are just as dangerous as the haunted animatronics of the past. In Security Breach, players step into the shoes of Gregory, a young boy who finds himself trapped inside the Mega Pizzaplex, a massive neon-lit shopping mall that houses the latest generation of Freddy Fazbear animatronics. Unlike the previous games, where the player is locked inside a small office or a room, Security Breach allows for free exploration of the entire complex, giving players a vast environment to explore and survive in. But just like before, the animatronics are not what they seem. They are haunted, twisted, and far more deadly than anything Gregory could have imagined. The game begins with Gregory sneaking into the Mega Pizzaplex, a state-of-the-art complex that has become the new face of Freddy Fazbear Entertainment. The Pizzaplex is a far cry from the shabby, outdated pizzerias of the past. It's sleek, futuristic, and filled with advanced technology designed to entertain visitors in ways never before seen. But the Pizzaplex is not as safe as it appears. As Gregory quickly learns, the animatronics who were once designed to entertain children have become increasingly hostile, and they are no longer simply malfunctioning robots. They are now highly intelligent, self-aware machines with one singular goal: to capture. The game introduces a new set of animatronics, the Glamrock animatronics, including Glamrock Freddy, Glamrock Chica, Montgomery Gator, and Roxanne Wolf. These new models are sleek and shiny, designed to appeal to a modern audience with their colorful 80s-inspired aesthetics. However, beneath their shiny exteriors lies a terrifying truth. These animatronics are just as dangerous, if not more so, than their predecessors. Their actions are not random, but driven by the malevolent force that continues to haunt Fazbear Entertainment. The lingering curse of William Afton, and the souls of the children trapped within the machines. What makes Security Breach stand out from previous entries in the series is the open-world gameplay. Rather than being confined to a single room, Gregory must navigate through the massive Pizzaplex, which features multiple levels, areas, and sections. The Pizzaplex is a sprawling maze of entertainment venues, from arcades to restaurants to the atrium, all filled with dangers lurking around every corner. As Gregory explores, he can find items to help him survive, solve puzzles, and uncover clues about the animatronics and the sinister history of the pizzeria. One of the most striking aspects of Security Breach is the role of Glamrock Freddy. Unlike previous games where the player was solely hunted by the animatronics, Glamrock Freddy is a companion to Gregory, offering protection and guidance throughout the game. Freddy is the first animatronic to show signs of being somewhat benevolent, helping Gregory evade the other hostile animatronics and providing assistance when needed. However, even Freddy's motives are unclear, and the question remains whether he is truly a friend or just another tool in the grand scheme of Fazbear Entertainment's dark past. Freddy's relationship with Gregory adds an emotional element to the story, giving players a glimpse of the complexity of the animatronic's motivations. The story of Security Breach is deeply tied to the dark legacy of William Afton. Through glitchy audio logs and hidden Easter eggs, players begin to uncover the truth about the Pizzaplex's creation and its connection to the man who started it all. It's revealed that the Pizzaplex was not simply built as an amusement park. It was a project to contain and control the haunted animatronics of the past. The very machines that were once the face of Freddy Fazbear Entertainment have been reprogrammed and redesigned to serve a new purpose. However, just like before, the animatronics are far from the harmless performers they seem to be. They are vessels for Afton's cursed legacy, and they remain tied to the souls of the children who died in the earlier pizzerias. A key moment in Security Breach occurs when the player uncovers the remains of the previous animatronics hidden deep within the facility. These broken down models, the old animatronics from the previous games, are still haunted by the souls of the dead children. The presence of these old animatronics serves as a reminder that, despite the flashy new facade of the Pizzaplex, the darkness of the past has never truly been purged. It's revealed that the new animatronics, like Glamrock Freddy, have been designed to trap the vengeful souls that still haunt the old models. However, as players quickly discover, this new generation of animatronics is not under the company's control, and they begin to act on their own, breaking free from their programming and turning against both the workers and the children. One of the most crucial revelations in Security Breach is the true identity of Vanessa, the security guard who seems to be helping Gregory in the beginning of the game. Vanessa, it turns out, is more than just a normal employee of Fazbear Entertainment. She is revealed to be under the control of Glitchtrap, the digital manifestation of William Afton's soul. Vanessa's role in the story is pivotal, as she becomes both an ally and an antagonist to Gregory. At first, it seems as though Vanessa is helping him, but as the game progresses, it's clear that she is being manipulated by Afton's influence. She becomes a symbol of Afton's continuing control over the world of Fazbear Entertainment, showing that no one, not even those who work for the company, is immune to his dark influence. The lore behind Security Breach sets up several new mysteries that will undoubtedly play a significant role in future FNAF installments. The story continues to explore the digital manipulation and the lingering curse of William Afton, who, despite his death, continues to haunt the franchise in more ways than one. Afton's soul, now freed from its physical prison, has found a new medium to exist in, the virtual world, and with it he is able to continue his twisted experiments and exert his influence over the animatronics. Security Breach is not just about surviving the night, it's about understanding the full extent of Afton's evil and the horrific legacy that continues to haunt the world of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. In the game's final moments, Gregory confronts the terrifying realization that Afton's influence cannot be stopped. Even though he has managed to escape the Pizzaplex, the horror is far from over. The game ends on a cliffhanger, leaving fans wondering, has Gregory truly escaped? Or has Afton found a way to escape the digital world and continue his reign of terror once again? As Five Nights at Freddy's continues to expand, both in its lore and in its fan base, the mysteries surrounding the haunted animatronics and the dark legacy of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza continue to evolve. While Security Breach leaves many questions unanswered, it also opens the door to deeper exploration of the lore, introducing new characters settings, and overarching themes that continue to tie the story together. Fans of the franchise have spent years piecing together the puzzles within the games, and the lore behind FNAF has grown to become one of the most intricate and convoluted in the world of gaming. With each new installment, new revelations surface, adding complexity to the long-running saga and providing new insights into the history of the animatronics, the vengeful spirits, and the ultimate fate of William Afton. One of the most important themes explored in FNAF's expanded lore is the idea of the cycle of death and resurrection. From the very beginning, players have witnessed the tragic fate of the children who were murdered by William Afton, their souls trapped inside the animatronics. These souls, longing for revenge, are unable to find peace, and their vengeful spirits haunt the very machines that were once meant to entertain. Afton's own soul becomes trapped in one of his creations, Springtrap, and from there, his legacy of death and suffering continues to haunt the world. This never-ending cycle of horror is one of the central motifs of the FNAF series, and it's clear that the animatronics are not just mechanical monsters. They are the embodiment of lost innocence, trauma, and revenge. As the franchise has progressed, we have seen multiple instances of resurrection and reanimation. From the earliest games, where the animatronics are shown to be haunted by the spirits of the murdered children, to later entries like Sister Location, where Afton's experiments with animatronics and souls take a more sinister turn. The idea that death is not the end is a recurring theme. In Help Wanted, Afton's soul manages to transcend his physical form and invade the digital world. While in Security Breach, we see that Afton's influence has managed to endure even after his apparent death. This resurrection, or more accurately, this continuation of torment, ties directly into the narrative of FNAF as a whole, and it suggests that Afton's influence over the animatronics will never truly end. One of the most intriguing aspects of FNAF's expanded lore is the connection between the puppet, Circus Baby, and the other animatronics. The puppet, who played a key role in FNAF 2, is not simply a bystander in the story, but a central figure in the lore. In Sister Location, it is revealed that the puppet is responsible for saving the souls of the murdered children, which is why the animatronics are able to come to life in the first place. This action is pivotal in setting the events of the series into motion, as the puppet's intervention leads to the creation of the haunted animatronics. However, as the story progresses, it becomes apparent that the puppet's intentions may not be entirely benevolent. It is implied that the puppet may have played a role in orchestrating the chaos and ensuring that the animatronics continue their haunting, suggesting that the puppet is not simply trying to free the souls, but is instead enacting a kind of vengeance on behalf of the murdered children. This complicated relationship between the puppet and the other animatronics adds another layer of complexity to the overall lore. The nature of William Afton's evil has also become a key point of discussion in the fan community. While Afton is often depicted as the primary antagonist of the series, his motivations and actions are not as straightforward as they seem. In some ways, Afton is a tragic character, a man obsessed with conquering death and resurrecting his dead children. However, this obsession leads him to commit horrific crimes, trapping the souls of innocent children inside animatronic suits and causing the deaths of countless others. Afton's desire to create life and cheat death results in unimaginable suffering for those around him. His twisted actions are driven by an almost godlike hubris, the belief that he can manipulate the very fabric of life itself. The legacy of Afton's actions extends far beyond the original pizzerias and animatronics. As each game progresses, It becomes clear that Afton's influence is not confined to one location or one set of animatronics. His experiments with remnant and digital souls open up new avenues for the continuation of his evil. By the time FNAF, Help Wanted and Security Breach come around, Afton's soul has managed to find a new home in the digital world, proving that no matter what form Afton takes, his presence is always felt. One of the most unsettling aspects of the law is the idea that Fazbear Entertainment, the company behind the animatronics, is complicit in Afton's crimes, either directly or indirectly. Over the course of the games, it becomes clear that the company has been involved in a cover-up, erasing evidence of the murders and the haunted animatronics. The company's willingness to sweep the deaths under the rug and continue business as usual speaks to the corporate greed that underpins much of the series. Fazbear Entertainment is not interested in the well-being of the children or the workers. They are only concerned with profit and maintaining the illusion of safety and entertainment. This sense of moral bankruptcy and corruption is a recurring theme in the FNAF series, with the company's complicity in the horrors of the past serving as a damning indictment of the corporate world. Fans have long speculated that William Afton's ultimate goal was to find a way to cheat death entirely, and his obsession with immortality and resurrection is one of the driving forces behind the series. In FNAF 3, Afton's desire to transfer his soul into the animatronics is revealed, and in later games like Sister, Location, his experiments with human souls and animatronic bodies further emphasize his desire to transcend the physical world. Afton's actions suggest that he views death not as an inevitable end, but as something that can be manipulated, controlled, and ultimately overcome. However, his failure to achieve this goal and the toll his experiments take on the souls of the children ultimately leads to his downfall. In the end, Afton's inability to escape the consequences of his actions becomes the tragic irony at the heart of his character. As the lore continues to unfold, the connections between the animatronics, the children's souls, and Afton's twisted experiments become more apparent. The souls that have been trapped inside the animatronics are not just passive victims, they are active participants in the ongoing cycle of horror. They are the ones who have been forced to live through their deaths, trapped inside the machines that Afton created. The animatronics are not simply machines. They are vessels for the souls of the dead, doomed to relive their torment over and over again. In the grand scheme of the FNAF lore, the ultimate question remains: can Afton's legacy ever truly be erased? Even as players attempt to destroy the animatronics and end the horrors of the past, it becomes clear that Afton's influence will always be felt. The franchise has left a series of open-ended questions and mysteries that continue to haunt the fan base, and with each new game, the saga of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza expands, revealing new layers of darkness and tragedy. As the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise has evolved over the years, it's become evident that the lore of the series is not just about jump scares and animatronic terror, but about something much deeper, a never-ending cycle of death, trauma, and the consequences of human greed. With each new installment, FNAF explores themes of resurrection, redemption, and the far-reaching influence of a tragic past. As we look ahead to the future of FNAF, we're left with a multitude of questions and theories about where the story will go next. The haunting presence of William Afton, the souls trapped inside the animatronics, and the legacy of Fazbear Entertainment are far from over. In fact, the lore suggests that this cycle of horror is destined to continue forever. Five Nights at Freddy's has never been a series that offers clear-cut answers. Instead, it's a world built on mystery, suspense, and the fear of the unknown. Each game adds new layers to the story, deepening the mythos while leaving enough room for interpretation. As the fan base continues to speculate and theorize, new questions arise with each new entry in the series. And even though some mysteries are finally addressed, others remain unresolved, leading to an endless stream of possible continuations. One of the most significant unresolved questions that continues to drive the story forward is the true fate of William Afton. Despite his apparent death in Pizzeria Simulator, Afton's legacy lives on through the remnants of his work. The glitch trap entity from Help Wanted suggests that Afton's soul was able to transcend the physical world and enter the digital realm, creating a new form of immortality. But is this really the end of his story? Security Breach introduced the idea that Afton's influence could continue even in a digital space. And with his soul still trapped in the glitchy remnants of his old self, it's likely that Afton's evil will never truly die. The concept of digital immortality presents a chilling new frontier in the FNAF lore. In Help Wanted, we see Afton's soul manifesting in the form of Glitch Trap, a digital copy of himself. This new form of existence raises questions about the nature of Afton's consciousness. Is he truly alive, or is he simply a remnant of his former self? And more importantly, is there any way to stop him from continuing his reign of terror through the digital world? The increasing focus on technology in Security Breach and Help Wanted suggests that the future of the franchise may involve even more complex ways in which Afton's influence spreads, potentially reaching beyond the boundaries of the games themselves. The franchise's deepening exploration of the virtual world and digital spaces also opens up new possibilities for the direction of future games. Could future FNAF games involve characters trapped inside virtual realities, struggling to escape the grasp of Afton and the haunted animatronics? Could the digital realm become the new battleground in the ongoing war between life and death, as souls are trapped inside not just physical animatronics, but digital avatars? The implications of Afton's transformation into a digital entity mean that the scope of the series could expand far beyond the traditional pizzeria setting. The possibilities for future games are endless, and fans are already speculating about the potential for new worlds, new characters, and new horrors to explore. Another key theme that will likely continue to be explored in future FNAF entries is the legacy of Fazbear Entertainment and its complicity in the horrors that have plagued the world for decades. Throughout the series, it's been clear that Fazbear Entertainment is more than just a pizza chain. It's a corporation that has actively covered up the crimes committed by William Afton and his associates. From the beginning, the company has gone to great lengths to maintain its public image,